Hello, Free Enterprise community, and welcome to the Monday Night Community Race. My name is Maggie the Cat, and I am joined this evening by our wonderful Restream team. We have got Terasu restreaming for us, Demarine2 tracking, and my co-commentator Rex Raoul in the booth with me. Rex, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to a fun race tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a pretty interesting flag set tonight. If you notice in the flag box there, it's a pretty long stream of flags. You see a lot of no's in there: no Cecil, no Kane, no Rosa. That's indicating all the characters who are not available in tonight's flags. The nickname for this flag set was Rejected Treasures. That's kind of a play on the reject percent that was from the World Series of Free Enterprise. That is all of the rejected characters from Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, and on top of that, with the treasure, we have T4. So even the best things can be found in treasure chests today. But we also have for key items the KQMT, which means key items can be the regular key item spots with the summon quests, the moon bosses, and the trapped treasure chests. And along with that, the pass is going to be located in one of three random there's going to be three random chests throughout the game that contain the pass, which of course is our shortcut to Zeromus. So there's a lot of treasure hunting that's probably going to be done tonight.
And besides that, the T4 flag is also on. So besides looking for the pass in random untrapped chests, our players are going to be looking for a lot of good treasures in untrapped chests as well. They can find anything from adamant armors to top tier weapons to summon spells for their Iridias in those chests.
Yeah, and the problem with the T4 is with the reject percentage, so many of the top tier equipment aren't usable by these people, but there's enough good equipment that it still is worth opening for them. Plus, good things that you find, we get the Twin Harp as our opening key item, which means that we might have a treat for some sweet music tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting any key item to start here is definitely a good thing for our runners, since there are so many spots that the key items can be in with the KQMT flags on that, that could have very easily been something like a ninja shirt or a drain spear or something that would have been really useless to them. So getting any key item to start with is going to be very useful for them. And now we see our runners doing pretty standard Baron treasure checks here to see what they can find on that T4 flag set.
Yeah, there's a lot of treasure chests in Baron. You also get a little bit of information. We see the dolls as the first boss in the Baron Inn, and Rydia is the character. We also see some items like the Mazamune. Legendary ninja swords aren't going to be very useful, but they do sell for a lot of money. So you can get since we have the JI flag on, the useful Japanese items in this game, like Bacchus wines, like hourglasses and everything like that, to really help get through the first part of the scene. Though, starting with Double Sid, as long as the boss can be dealt with by physicals, you got a pretty high level start and a pretty good physical attack. And Night Dew is saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take care of this Baron Inn fight right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Sid is probably the best of the five characters, at least early on, since he starts at a relatively high level. He's got pretty good hit points, and he's got pretty decent physical attacks early game here. We were talking about the rejected characters. There are 5 characters that are available. Besides Sid, we've already seen Rydia. They can also get Tella, which we just see down on Zilch's screen. Tella is available in the Kaipo bed. You're also going to potentially see Porum and Edward. Those are considered the 5 reject characters in Final Fantasy IV, and Sid is probably the best to start out with here.
Yeah, Sid is very useful in this, like I said, in the early part of the game. His usefulness does kind of tail off depending on what equipment you can find. If you can find an Artemis bow, Artemis arrows, and like a Zeus gauntlet for him, then he's still going to be able to dish out some pretty good damage. But his stats are pretty bad, and his equipment draw isn't great, so he's not going to be dealing as much damage on par of like a Cecil or Kane could on a T4 flag most of the time.
Down on Nitsky's screen, we saw that he did get through the first boss spot in Baron Inn. That's a pretty easy boss spot to get through. And now onto the second boss spot, we find Mylan and the Ghasts. This isn't too bad of a boss. Looks like Nitsky did have a couple of J items. With the JI flag set enabled, that allows J items to be available. So using some J items, some attack items here to take out the Ghasts pretty quickly, and then going to just be whacking Mylan with the weapons, the wooden hammers that the Cid starts out with.
Yeah, and that might be the undoing, because even the Lit 1 counter with his occasional physical attacks is doing quite a bit of damage to the characters there, and Cid might have a decent amount of HP, but he's got very poor magic defense to start with. He's going to want to look for either a piece of Dragoon equipment or a piece of Diamond equipment to resist lightning before trying that fight again.
We see the rest of our runners are doing some pretty standard shopping and item checking. Looks like we found sirens, hourglass ones, and life potions down on Zilch's screen. Those are available in the Troya pub and Troya item shop. Those are all very, very useful items. Our runners, if they find those, are going to be loading up on those. The hourglass ones in particular are J items. That if used during battle will cast like a multi-target stop spell that as long as the enemies do not have the boss bit enabled, it will stop the entire party of enemies. So will be very useful for when they're tackling things like treasure chests, the trapped chests, to try and look for those key item checks.
A couple useful items found in the Damsian treasure vault as well. A dwarf axe, which Cid can equip to enable what's called the back row glitch, which sets a bit that lets the character attack from the same distance as the back row. That isn't removed even when you unequip the weapon, so he'll be able to take more physical damage from the back row and deal more damage to back row enemies as well. So that's a nice find, as well as a cursed ring, which we might come in to talk about more later, a bit later in the seed. But even though it gives minuses to all your stats, there are situations where it's very useful.
On Much Paranoia's screen, we saw him looting the treasure checks that were in the town of Silvera. As we were saying, with the T4 flag on, there are some very high-level items that are available in these treasure checks. We saw both a crystal sword and a white robe being pulled out of the bushes in Silvera. Crystal sword is, of course, Cecil's best weapon. Unfortunately, Cecil's not available in this flag set, so all we're going to be able to do with that is turn it into money by selling it. That white robe could be very useful if we find a forum, or even if they want to put it on their child Rydia once they get her, since Rydia can equip white magic or white mage equipment before turning her into an adult.
We also saw Tella earlier, and Tella could use that white robe as well. Another thing that we saw, Naitu took a peek at the character up at the top of Mount Ordeals, finds yet another Cid up there, but did not want to deal with fighting Golbez. I can't blame him.
Absolutely not. Nicknamed Trollbez, that is a really nasty fight. So yeah, I can't blame anyone for wanting to skip that.
Especially when you've already got two Cids in your party. A third Cid isn't really what you want. At this point, you want variety in what your characters can give you. And so you don't want to get another person who does just hit things. You want to get somebody who can splice it up with some sort of magic or something like that. You want to find Forum, you want to find Rydia, even Tella. And honestly, even Edward would be a better choice, because he gives us some alternate strategies to certain bosses in certain cases.
Now, down on Nitsky's screen, we saw him go through the Mist Cave, which is kind of an interesting play. We don't often see runners go through the Mist Cave, since unless there's something like the Mist Dragon, which could potentially hold a key item in there, there's not really anything in there. But it looked like Nitsky wanted to go through there for the treasure chests, and we did see him pull out a stack of Artemis arrows, which is a very nice find. Also on Zilch's screen, Zilch found the hook in the bottom of the Antlion Cave.
Yeah, and that's just where Night Dew is headed right now. And this is the Dark Knight Cecil. In some places, this is a very difficult boss. At this point in the game, with characters who as high HP as Sid and as little power as the Antlion spot, this is just let Dark Knight hit the Dark Wave 3 times. He'll talk about justice a little bit, and then go away. Very easy fight, easy way to get that hook.
That's actually a really nice place for our runners to find Pain Man, as we call him in the community, since that boss can be really nasty in the right or wrong locations.
Yeah, depending on what you're looking for. Yeah.
Over on Zilch's screen, it looks like, I believe that Zilch is in the Fubul defense fight right now, fighting Dark Elf. Probably is not going to have too much trouble with this fight, so we're about to see what key item, if any, we're going to get from the King of Fubul momentarily here. And Much Paranoia is checking the Baron Inn spot, fighting Mylan and the Ghasts.
And now that after some shopping and looting has been done, is better equipped than the runners that we saw try to take on Mylan very early in the run. So it'll be interesting to see. Oh, and even using a Star Veil to try to reflect some of those lightning spells. That physical damage is pretty good, though. Maggie, did you see what the reward was at the top of Fabul?
I actually did not. It went by really fast, but I don't see anything new on Zilch's tracker. Demarine 2, our tracker tonight, is saying in chat that it was just a ninja shirt.
Night 2 wants that third Sid and is going to try to fight Golbez here. Looks like Paranoia was successful in defeating Mylan. We'll be getting Rydia in the party, so we're going to see somebody other than Sid. The reward is just a succubus, not really anything that you'd want to get as a reward.
Yeah, Rydia is the true reward here from that spot. At least some of our runners have gotten Sylph, the Sylph summon. I'm not sure if Much Paranoia has it, but I know some of our other runners have gotten that summon, and that's a really nice summon for Rydia. So if Much Paranoia has it or can find it, that's going to make his really powerful, especially early game.
Yeah, and you need to get Rydia up to the point where I think it's either 20 or 25 MP, and at level 1 she only has 20, but generally one fight will be enough to get her to the point where she can cast Sylph. And Sylph has a, I guess, glitch or unique property, you might call it, that it doesn't actually cost MP, but you do need to have that much in order to cast it.
Speaking of Sylph, Much Paranoia is showing off the Hobbs flag. Oh, I apologize. I thought that was Sylph up here on Hobbs. But Much Paranoia is showing off the Hobbs flag, where if you take Rydia to the front of Mount Hobbs, you can learn a random summon. It looks like he got Shiva for that, which doesn't actually blow away the ice, so he won't be able to get the treasure chests that are on the front of Mount Hobbs, if that's maybe what he was looking for. He did get the Shiva summon from it, but if he wants to get those treasure chests that are on the front of Mount Hobbs, he is going to have to get through that Golbez fight that we know is on the back of Mount Hobbs.
Yeah, and we just saw Night Dew clear through the chests on West Mount Hobbs and did not find anything super impressive there either. And Paranoia wants nothing of that Golbez fight.
Demarine commenting that if you get Shiva and you leave and come back, the ice is removed, which is actually a trick that I didn't know. So a good little trick to know that if you get Shiva, you can actually clear the ice. Looks like Zilch might be doing the Cave Magnus check, so we may be getting music pretty early on here with that Twin Harp.
I think that's a smart play with the double Sid start. Now, this boss location is really known for having super high magic defense, so you need to have physical attackers. Well, luckily, that's basically all that Sid can do. So having the double Sid start is a lot more. There's a lot more reason to do this run early than, say, if you started with Rydia Pora.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that our runners have been at it for about almost 15 minutes now and have made several more checks, done a few, treasure checks and boss checks, have a little bit more experience, have a little bit more treasure under their belt. They're in a pretty good position to see, at least see what this boss is and see if it's doable at their levels and with the equipment that they've found so far.
Yeah, at this point, basically anything on the overworld is open to them. They can go to the Castle Evelyn, where there are 3 trap chests. If they decide to make the gamble up to the Tower of Zot, there's a trap chest there. If they go into Cave Evelyn, there's a trap chest there if they want to start heading down the hook route. And of course, Mount Ordeals looms over all still. But I think the runners are trying to avoid Mount Ordeals because it is a very long process for just one check. And if they had Tella in the party already, they might be more incentivized. But at this point, they don't know whether or not they're going to end up with a Tella in their party. And so there might not be anything other than that one character. But now it's time for some music.
Absolutely.
As I've said many times before, let's listen to DJ Spoonie B's Rockin' Tunes. And as the title bout rains down on Zilch, finds Ogo Pogo. Now, as long as Zilch has picked up the Tier 2s that were available in the stores, I don't think this is going to be too tough of a fight. Going to, looks like back us up one of them, probably, yeah, looks like going to be using the Tier 2s by the second Sid, so... I don't think this is going to be too tough for Zilch.
This is another boss like the Dark Knight Cecil that can be really nasty if you encounter it in the wrong location, on the moon or in one of the summon boss locations underground. Here, it's not going to be too bad. Yeah, those attacks aren't doing very much damage to that Sid. The main thing to worry about is the big waves, which each big wave will take off a quarter of your character's health. And Pogo Pogo will alternate between doing one big wave and then several physical attacks, and then doing 2 big waves and several physical attacks. So as you saw, he will open with 2 big waves and immediately take off 50% of your character's health. So he can be pretty nasty at certain locations, but here he's not too bad.
Yeah, it's also tough if you're relying on using magic to defeat him because he's got nasty counters for magic and summons. But if you're just banging on him with hammers like Sid does, it's pretty good.
Yeah, we did find a really nice sword from that location, the Avenger, which unfortunately nobody in this party is going to be able to use. So nothing of value at Cave Magnus tonight.
Now, Much Paranoia has decided to go up into Castle Evelyn and has found the 3 Mad Ogres chest. This is a good place for a lot of reasons. You get a lot of experience out of these chests in here. Plus, with the KT, there's potentials for key items in here. So this is just an overall pretty good play here, I would say. Especially since he found Rydia and he wants to get some levels on her as well.
Absolutely, and if he picked up those hourglasses, which it looks like he does, he's got those hourglass ones in his inventory, all of the trapped chests in here can be stopped, and so these are pretty easily overcome, even with a low-level party. Sid, once you stop them, his Sids can just, whack them with whatever weapons they have equipped at this point.
And Zilch is making the play up the Tower of Zot next. Found a power robe in the first chest, which outside of the adamant armor, is going to be your best boost for strength for Sid, as far as like body armor goes. So that's going to make one of his Sid's attack power relevant a lot longer in the game than he might without that. So that's a very nice pickup there.
Much Paranoia is finding several nice pieces of equipment in Eblin Castle. Most of it, unfortunately, is not being usable by this party. We saw an Excalibur, we saw some crystal gear, did find an Artemis bow out of one of the pots, and so that is going to be a really excellent piece of gear that several people in this party actually can use. Sid can use it, Form can use it, Rydia can use it. It's the best bow in the games, and depending on who you have in your party and what kind of build you want to make, I think everybody in this party actually, I think Tella even can use bows, and Edward can use bows as well. So that's going to be a really nice find for anybody who goes into Castle Eblin.
Tella unfortunately could not use bows, so but everybody else can use that. But that old man, he likes his sticks.
Yeah, and his magic when he remembers it.
Now, Paranoia is at the second trap chest in Evelyn, finds the Steelman skull, summoning Shiva for all of us. And Zilch found that flame dog chest, just gets a Aegis shield out of this. We'll see if he decides to go up and peek at the first boss. It looks like he's going to make that check.
Yeah, with this flag set on no free key items, normally you'd be able to get a key item from Edward sitting in the bed in Troya. However, with the no free key item flag set on, that free key item is replaced by finding and defeating the Mist Dragon, and then going and talking to Rydia's mother in Village Mist and getting a key item from her. So it's not uncommon to see our runners checking boss spots, as we saw some of our runners check the boss spot in Mist Cave. Some of them may have already checked the boss spot in the waterway to look for that Mist Dragon, even if there is nothing else in those locations.
And just the Drain Sword out of the Staleman skull fight that Paranoia defeated. We saw the door in that boss spot, and Zilch decides to just reset on it, did not find a key item. Is going to be giving up that power robe, but that's really the only decent piece of equipment he found, and figured he can either get that later if he has to go to the Tower of Zod, or he can just deal without it.
Yeah, definitely a nice play for our runners. Like if they're going to check some of those out of the way spots, like Tower of Zod, to make a safety save outside. So instead of having to run all the way back out, you just exit the game and then reload your previous save instead of having to walk all the way back up, exit out.
Yeah, and that's the gambles that you have to take. What's going to save you your time versus, like, it's definitely faster to reset, but you're giving up on something by doing that. Let's see here. Paranoia defeated the last trap chest, just gets a white shirt, so no key items in Evelyn today.
Yeah, we've seen several checks now. That was a dragon whip that Much Paranoia just pulled out. That's Rydia's best physical weapon. So if they want to make Rydia a warrior princess, they're on the right path to do so. That makes her a lot faster and a lot stronger at the expense of taking away from her mental stats. So she's not as good of a caster, but it does make her pretty powerful physically. But as I was saying, we've seen lots of checks so far of key item checks, and not a lot of key items yet. So this is looking like it's going to be a hook seed, where our runners are going to have to go through Upper Babel to get to the Underworld.
Yeah, that's such is the nature of the KQMT, that you're not necessarily going to see a lot of key items early. Now, there is one other place that we haven't checked on the Overworld, and that is Outward Fields. We'll see if any of our runners decide to head up that before making the dip into Cave Evelyn. Now, of course, in Cave Evelyn, there are 2 trap chests along the way through the hook route, and either of those could have the Magna Key. So there's a lot of things still up in the air here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not uncommon to not see an early ordeals check, especially with so many other checks. And with no Tella and no Cecil and no Fusoya, who are the other two characters who really benefit from going up ordeals early on. So, not uncommon to not see that check. It is a pretty long check, three bosses, a cutscene. You can't exit or warp out of there. So, we'll see if our runners decide to go up there, or if one of them is just going to go straight down to the hook route first.
Yeah, the other thing why they didn't go there earlier is that lack of incentive. No Cecil in the party means no transforming into Paladin Cecil. No use for those crystal swords. And that's a big draw of Mount Ordeals in a lot of other flag sets. The fact that there's no Cecil means there's not a whole lot of incentive. Now, there is Tella. However, we don't know whether or not Tella is going to be... We know he's sleeping in Kaipo. And so if there is a sand ruby found, we have access to a Tella. And Tella can be pretty good on this flag set in that once he's learned all his spells, we can use him for the D-Machine grind. It's one of the grind opportunities available to our runners tonight. That would necessitate a Mount Ordeals climb. But our party has already found Sirens too, so doesn't necessarily need to have access to Tella in order to do a grind.
Yeah, and Tella definitely has some early versatility too, since, if you find him early and you do ordeals early, he has a pretty big spell list that the rest of our characters, especially in this flag set, aren't going to have access to until much later on. You do have access to both white and black magic with Porum and Rydia, but so far we haven't found a Porum at all, and Rydia is not going to have access to her higher level black magic spells until much, much later, especially with the JS flag on. That is the J spells. So she's going to be learning her high tier spells at a higher level because she learns them when she learns them in the Japanese flag set, which is at a higher level. And so Tella's going to have a lot of spells early on that our runners won't have access to until later on. So they may have use for that if they can get Tella, if they find an early sand ruby or find him in a different location, like maybe Evelyn Cave, which we see much paranoia going to right now.
Yeah, and it looks like Paranoia is like, I just want to avoid ordeals. I don't want to I don't want to deal with that time sink. I think if Paranoia is trying to go through here now instead of ordeals, he's hoping that he doesn't get Tella as the character here in Evelyn, is my guess.
Yeah, if he does get Tella here, that's going to mean he's either going to have to take a nerfed Tella with only... what does he start out with? Maybe, I think, 8 or 12 spells, something like that.
It's 12
through the
spells,
hook, yeah, through the hook route, or he's going to have to back all the way out and do ordeals to get that full power Tella to get through the hook bosses.
Yeah, it's if you've already committed to Evelyn Cave and you're going through it, going back and doing Mount Ordeals is such a big time sink compared to going through all there. Now, Paranoia's already gone through all of the Evelyn Castle trap chests, and so he's leveled up as Rydia quite a bit at this point. Doesn't want to deal with going back, because the other incentive that you get from ordeals is a little bit of experience on your team. Paranoia's got the experience he wants already. He just wants to get a character that's going to help him get through the hook boss, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And he'll be able to get one more fight after getting that character. There is one more trapped chest in the upper babble before reaching the two bosses that ultimately guard the hook route. It's 4 mad ogres, and if done correctly, you can life glitch those ogres and get a lot of XP from those. So even if you find a low-level character like another Rydia or a Porum, you can get them pretty well ready for those upcoming 2 boss battles by doing that one trapped chest fight that's coming up still.
Yeah, and with items like that rune axe that Paranoia just picked up, and the mute dagger, if we had somebody who Rydia can use that, they do 4 times damage against those mad ogres. and so it can become pretty easy to defeat them fast, life glitch them, and get a lot of experience out of that.
The trapped chest here in Eblin Cave, we saw Much Paranoia defeat that. It was actually a trapped pot that was in the little Eblin City area, and it just contained a protect ring. Now, that is one of the best pieces of defensive gear in the game, so definitely is not going to be sad to see it, but it's still not a key item.
And it is Tella.
There's our Tella that we were just talking about, yeah.
So this is going to be really interesting if Paranoia wants to go power up Tella. Now we see that Octobam is going to be the second boss. I think that's not going to be too difficult. It's easy to slow down Octobam by just beating him down. losing the legs as the fight goes on slows that boss. And so, yeah, Paranoia just going to power through it with that power staff. And the low power Tella.
Yeah, and actually, one of the spells that Tella does start out with, even before going to Ordeals, is Blink. And that's actually going to be a really useful spell for that Octomam spot, because all Octomam does is physical attacks, and Blink will put up a shield that protects the character that it affects from 2 physical attacks. So Tella can be a blink spammer for this party and just keep the party blinked and help protect from those physical attacks.
That is a good point. It's not like Tella is without use before climbing Ordeals, but it does look like Zilch has decided to climb the mountain itself. So we are seeing a divergence here. This is the first, there's a little minor divergence as people clear the overworld, decide where to go first. But this is, I think, the first real meaningful divergence in that we're seeing right now.
We did also see Much Paranoia pick up a pass out of one of the treasure chests here in Upper Babel. So assuming that the Mount Ordeals item is not something like the Magma Key, if all of our runners do have to go through the hook route, they're probably all going to find that pass along the way.
Well, and also depending on how much hunting has to be done for that, for the crystal in order to complete the seed, people might end up going into Upper Babel anyways just to find this Mad Ogre chest. So there's still a chance if the Magma Key is on top of Mount Ordeals, there still is an outside chance that Zilch will end up having to go through that Upper Babel.
Very true, very true.
And we see Zilch fighting Odin. Odin's another one of those bosses that in certain places can be very scary. The first boss spot on Ordeals is not one of those spots.
Yeah, so far our runners have been fairly lucky as far as where they've found some of the meaner bosses. We see Zilch getting through that Odin fight pretty easily.
And it looks like another Rune Axe was the reward for that Mad Ogre chest, so still light on key items.
At least their SIDs are pretty well decked out at this point.
Yeah. This Rubicon in the back spot can be kind of tough. It looks like they have one Boreas. It looks like they're going to use a Kamikaze here. And that might be dangerous after that glare. Better hope that this kills Rubicon here. And it does, so that's good.
Ooh, yes, very nicely played by Zilch. Looks like Night Dew is right on Much Paranoia's tail here in the 4 Mad Ogres fight that is in Upper Babel. And Much Paranoia is coming up on the first boss spot that is guarding the hook route that goes into the underground. We see that it is Leviathan.
Yeah, Leviathan shouldn't be too bad here, all things considered. This spot is really known for having really massively strong physical attacks, and Leviathan chucks some Ice 2s at you and hits you with that same big wave attack that we saw from Ogopogo earlier in the run. And the magic attack at this spot is not really as strong as it is in certain other locations in here. So as long as they can fend off the big waves, they should be able to get through this. But it does seem to be pretty fast.
And as we were talking about earlier, Mount Ordeals holds the goods since Zilch did pick up the magma key up here on top of Mount Ordeals. So he now has easy access to the underground. If well, I'm assuming that that is exactly what he's going to do. Now we will see if he decides to go through Eblin Cave and Upper Babel to get to the treasure chests, which we know don't hold anything except there is a pass and a Tella if he wants to go get those.
Yeah, I'm guessing that that would be like if there's a late darkness crystal, perhaps just going there right before heading to the moon or something like that, like as a last resort. At this point, I'm imagining Zilch is going to avoid that as much as possible. Of course, I've been wrong before with some of my predictions, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's always really interesting to see how our runners diverge and the strategies that they see. It's I'm always very impressed at what everybody comes up with and how they do their routing and their strategies and everything. So it does look like Zilch is going to immediately drop the magma key into the well in Agart to at least open up the route to the underground. Now that doesn't mean that he's not going to come back up and do those chest checks in Eblin later on at some point. He could very well do that either right now or very soon in the future if he thinks he maybe missed something there.
And this is an interesting thing because at this point, Zilch kind of just shortcutted in front of where Paranoia and Night Dew are. I'll also notice, say, Nitsky also made the check up to Tower of Zot and walked out. So Nitsky does have that power robe that we saw. I believe it was Night Dew reset out of.
Yes, I believe, yeah, I think it was Naidu who went up and checked Zot originally, yeah. So we'll see how much difference that power robe makes, now that somebody else has got it.
Now, Zilch, first thing in the Underworld, decides to go right to the tower. Now, this is a spot where there's 4 key items, or 4 potential key items in trap chests. Plus, there's a boss up at the top of Mount Ordeals. Finds Leviathan in the first trap chest. That's going to make Rydia very strong indeed.
Yeah, that is her second strongest summon. We see Leviathan up on Nightdew's screen. So Leviathan, when Rydia summons it, is going to do exactly what you see him do up on Nightdew's screen. It's going to summon a big wave and attack all of the enemies on the screen for quite a bit of damage. So that's a really nice find, even if it's not a key item.
Paranoia making use of that Sylph summon to make sure that his team is nice and healthy. Doesn't look like he's having too much problem with this fight at all.
Yeah, though the only kind of downside to this spot is that it does have a lot of health, usually compared to the amount of damage that you're outputting at these levels. So it does take a little while to get through this spot. We see that they've been on this fight already for several minutes, and so not really too much of a dangerous fight, especially at this point now that Paranoia has got Octum and Tentacle. Not going to be doing a lot of damage to the party, but it's just going to take a little while to get through all those hit points.
Yeah, and he'd have a pretty good lead here where he was entering this Octomam fight had the Magma Key not been on Mount Ordeals. Like, if this was a hook run and everybody had to deal with the high HP that Octomam has there, then it would just be a wash. The fact that there is a Magma Key available makes that time commitment a lot stronger. We do see that Sand Ruby found in the Tower of Babel, the lower tower, on Zilch's screen. We'll see if he decides to go pick up Tella, and he'll have a full-powered Tella. Fix that up.
Yeah, I think that he already found the second trapped chest. I think it was just a white spear, but that was the third one, and that sand ruby could be very useful, especially now that he did already do ordeals, and that could be a full powered tele for him. He's definitely going to be having to go back up to the overworld at some point, so we may not see that tele come into his party immediately, but maybe once he decides to go back up at some point, we'll see him pick up that tele. Oh, and he did just find a pass. So when we were talking about him missing out on the pass in Eblin Cave, or I believe it was Upper Babel, he missed it. He just got it out of Lower Babel.
Yeah, now that is huge. So that would be the time saved that those who made like if there was like it was on layaway or something like that. If the pass was going to be only found there, or and then in chests that just aren't even open, because there are 3 chests. But looks like on the other hand, Zilch finds one in a convenient spot where he's already wanting to open chests anyways. That's where you want to find the pass on a PT scene.
Absolutely. And the last trapped chest here in Lower Babel contained the Baron key. So we finally get another key item that has progression. That's going to open up Baron Castle, which will have potentially 2 key item checks, the Baron King and then the Odin spot.
And Paranoia has defeated Octoman, has made it to the Underworld to get that red airship. Meanwhile, Nitsky has also decided to go up the Mount Ordeals route. So as long as Nits doesn't have problems with that Rubicant, should be able to get that Magma Key as well. That Rubicant can be a difficult fight, so we'll see.
Yeah, if he can get through this fight and get that magma key, even though he's kind of behind right now because we see Much Paranoia's underground. Night Dew just beat that Octomom and is about to get underground, and Zilch is underground, so everyone else has gotten underground access. Nitsky does not have the hook, so if he can get this magma key off of the top of Mount Ordeals, he is going to be right in the running with everybody else.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like that magma key, especially since we know that there's a pass in the Lower Babel, which is a pretty prime location in the Underworld in this flag set. Probably will be checking out those chests. Can make up a lot of time like that.
It looks like we have found Wyvern here at the top of Lower Babel. I missed what the opening move was because I believe we have the Witchburn flag on, which is where it replaces the opening Mega Nuke with a different attack. And we see a really interesting strategy on Zilch's screen where he used star veils on everybody, and then used a summon with Iridia in order to force Wyvern to use a Mega Nuke, but it reflected off of everybody's walls back onto Wyvern, doing a considerable amount of damage to everybody, or to Wyvern himself.
Yeah, looks like this second one is not going to come out fast enough, as Wyvern reflected 3 nukes, and it's going to cause an unfortunate wipe. That's a pretty tough Wyvern, because that spot up at the top of the tower has a pretty high HP as well.
And it's really fast. Possibly if we see him maybe move his battle speed down a little bit, or do some adjusting of his agility anchor, may be able to get through that. We see him doing some inventory management now, and we'll see what he decides to do from here. Paranoia has decided to go into the Fin March right away. There are potentially 4 key item checks here. The first one being this trapped chest, the Warrior's chest, which it looks like he's probably stopped with an hourglass and is making his way through. There's also a free chest, the key item chest that's at the bottom of the Fin March, and then the 2 summon locations, the Ashura and the Leviathan spot. So we're about to see what those are as soon as he gets through this Warrior's chest.
And Night Dew has decided to go into the Dwarf Castle, so seeing some more divergence in the Underworld. Gonna get grown-up Rydia by going through this, a new character, and a potential key item. Looks like the first boss is the Water Hag. Very easy boss in this first spot.
Yeah, Water Hag is considered one of the free bosses. If you hit it 3 times, it just goes away.
All right, Zilch is going to try this wyvern one more time here.
Much Paranoia so far has not gotten anything out of the Feymarch. We saw a piece of samurai equipment from the warrior's chest that's actually pretty appropriate. I'm sure that's what the warriors were actually wearing. And then I think it was just a drain spear from the free key item chest here.
Looks like decided to go with a Bacchus on Rydia after equipping with the Dragon Whip for the 4 times damage on the Wyvern. And you see Rydia just dishing out lots of damage really fast.
Yeah, that whip increases her agility, increases her strength, decreases her mental stats, but you know, if she's just going to be doing 1,600, 2,000 damage to Wyvern, who needs to be casting Leviathan at that point?
We finally see a Porum up on Night Dew's screen. The second boss here is Mom Bomb. Kind of an annoying spot to find Mom Bomb because it's a pretty low HP spot anyways, and Mom Bomb adds a lot of HP to whatever spot they're at.
Nitsky did get through Mount Ordeals, has collected the Magma Key, and is dropping it into the well, so he is just about to break through into the underground on his screen as well. So we'll see where he decides to go. Maybe we'll see a Sylph Cave check, and we'll have runners in all of the different locations, all 4 corners of the underground.
This Wyvern is proving to be very difficult for Zilch. This new strategy also met with the wipe, so...
Yeah, that was definitely a great effort on Zilch's part. We'll see if he decides to try again or what he's going to do here. Really impressive how much damage Rydia can put out with that Dragon Whip under the correct circumstances.
Yeah, that's why it's nice to have characters like Rydia who are very flexible in what they're able to do. There's just between the black magic, the summons, and the Dragon Whip sort of build, there's just so many different options that you've got with her, and I think that's what makes her a useful character. She might not be like as powerful in the stats or where she learns spells as like a Pal would as a pure black mage, but she makes up for it a lot of times with her versatility, as we're seeing here.
Much Paranoia has found the, I believe this is the Kaipo Guards fight. This is one of the summon boss locations. I didn't catch if this was Ashura or Leviathan, but either way, this was a really nice fight to find down at the bottom of the Feymarch, because this is another free location or free boss, because you can stop them, you can cast status spells on them, and he gets the Darkness Crystal from this. That is a fantastic find for a really easy fight.
Yeah, that's big game there. And let's see here. Night Dew's about to make a check for a key item after defeating the bosses. Looks like might be taking a break, stepping aside. It doesn't look like the stream is frozen because those dwarves are all marching. Looks like switching up to Artemis Bow and Artemis Arrows on Sid as the Berserker, and that does even more damage than Rydia's Dragon Whip. So I was able to do it. Unfortunately, just an Assassin Dagger. That's really unfortunate.
That's really heartbreaking when you are like when you committed to a spot like that and you try it a few times and you're like, I really got to get through this, because you don't want to bail out of it, especially in a spot like the top of Babel like that, because it's going to take you a long time to come back up here, and you don't want to. You're committed to it, you don't want to go out of it, and then it just turns out to be trash.
Yeah, outside of a couple uses on grinds and certain bosses, that Assassin Dagger is not one that you want to get. I think that was the Earth Crystal.
That's what I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. Night Dew was very quick with the closing the window, but that's what it looked like.
And that's what our tracker Demarine is indicating on the tracker screen as well.
Well, Paranoia is about to go to my favorite room in Free Enterprise to see if he decides to talk to the employee with Dwarf. Oh,
No! Oh, wait, he's going back.
right. There we are.
Yes! Very nice.
Night 2 also finding out that the dwarf is a sociology professor. I think most of the sociology professors in this world would hang out in a room in a small town next to lava.
That's amazing. Zilch has come back up to the overworld now and looks like he is going to go pick up that Tella, that's that full powered Tella that's available for him now that he's got the Sand Ruby.
Yeah, at this point, might as well, because I don't think Zilch has even got all 5 party members filled at this point. So might as well do that. Night 2 going to the grind spot in the underworld, or at least one of them. Looks like he's gonna want to crack a few eggs to gain some levels, like a little mini grind here.
That's definitely not a bad idea, especially now that he's got a full party and he's got a relatively low level Porum with him. Wants to probably get her up to levels, and with 5 party members and a lower level party member, he's going to be able to slingshot her a little bit here.
Yeah, it depends on what the exact level breakdown is. After getting a few levels in the Dwarf Castle, it might still be there, but it might not. But at any rate, it shouldn't take too long to get her to a place where Night 2 wants. Now, Night 2 might be trying to grind her up to the point where she learns Float, and then could have access to the Sylph Cave and all the trap chests that are located there.
Yeah, definitely. Doing Sylph Cave trapped chests without float is kind of a pain. You have to then use cure potions before you open any chest to make sure that your party doesn't just wipe to whatever, in case you do get a trapped chest, make sure you don't wipe to whatever you're going to encounter. So, yeah. And since he is the only one with, well, we have Tella on a few other screens, but I think that Zilch is the only one with a full power Tella who would have float at this point. So he's the only one who would have, Night 2 is the only one who would have access to somebody who has float at this point, who's in the underground.
Well, yeah, once Night 2 gets that grind on, this guy is also has the Sand Ruby, so will have access to a fully powered Tella once he goes back up to the overworld.
It looks like since Zilch came back up to the overworld, he picked up that Tella, and then he's decided to make use of that Baron key that he picked up from the trapped chest in Lower Battle. He's in Baron Castle right now. He's found Bahamut. This probably isn't going to be too difficult for him at this spot.
Looks like Night 2 is doing the mini grind for the Fame Arch area here, going through the battles that we saw Paranoia handling earlier. Zilch defeats Bahamut in the first spot. It looks like it'll loot at least the 3 chests that are available immediately.
Yeah, the other nice thing about doing Baron is that there are a lot of chests available in here. On the way to the Odin spot, there's a couple of treasuries that can potentially have a lot of good loot. So that's the other nice thing about finding the Baron key.
Yeah, it depends on how well equipped their Zilch's party is right now, whether or not it's going to be worth it to go through those treasuries. Once that pass is found, the need to open up a lot of random chests goes down quite a bit. Well, it looks like we have Pale Dim sitting on the throne.
This is a lunar boss that usually is not. This is probably the easiest of the lunar bosses, to be honest. This one and Plague are usually not too difficult to get through if you know how to handle them. Pale Dim is considered so with Artemis arrows, which we saw one of his Sids had, and that dragon whip that Rydia has, not having any trouble getting through, especially in this location that doesn't have too many hit points.
Oh, and our first Edward sighting of the seed. Edward is the character in Baron.
Edward can be really good if you have the right equipment for him. The spoon flag is enabled in this flag set, which means that if they find the spoon, these runners could make a really, really useful fighter out of Edward. Unfortunately, nobody's found the spoon yet. But the rescue flag is also on, so if they want to dismiss Edward for now and then bring him back after they find the spoon, that is a possible strategy that they could go with now that somebody's found him.
This guy found the wyvern up at the top of the tower, summoned Leviathan, maybe didn't remember that even though the witch burn is on, still has the mega nuke as the counter for the summons there.
Going right back at it though. We'll see how he's changed up his strategy here. Looks like Zilch is going right back into Baron and is going to make a check at the Odin location.
Yeah, take a peek at least.
This location, the Odin location here, is much more difficult than the King of Baron location, but depending on what boss we find here, we've seen a few of the free bosses, but not all of them. This is going to be the Fagul Gauntlet because it's the blue robe and we've already seen Waterhag. So this is doable, but it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be long no matter what. And it's going to be a stronger gauntlet than a lot of the other spots. Because this has pretty decent physical attacks. These fighters are going to do a decent amount of damage. Luckily, right now, it looks like they're zeroing in on the SIDS, and that's something that's going to be helpful for Zilch. And even taking out one fighter takes a lot. This is one of these fights where that assassin dagger might be useful.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah, if he still has it. Yeah, these monsters or character bosses, whatever you want to call them, do not actually have the boss pit enabled. So they can be, we just saw them paralyzed by Rudia's whip. They can be, it looks like he's going to try to cast stone on them. Yep, that stone just landed. So yeah, they can be stopped, they can be stoned. That assassin dagger could potentially hit for the 1 KO hit.
Yeah, the only thing that's tough about that is since all the fights are separated out, you can't just use 1 hourglass to stop the entire fight like you can with the Dark Imps or the things like that.
Yeah, that's what makes this fight so long, is that it's actually 6 fights all divided up. So yeah, you have to keep casting stone or keep casting quake if you have somebody who's got like an AoE spell or something like that.
Knight 2 fighting that same free fight that we saw Paranoia take on earlier. Very similar looking with the officer soldiers versus the general fighter of the gauntlet, but since the officer soldier is just the one fight, a lot easier. Even though it's I think in general the Ashura spot, I think it was usually a little bit more difficult than the Odin spot. It's going to be a much easier fight overall.
Yeah, we do see Zilch using an hourglass on the generals and fighters here, which isn't a bad play because they're definitely the meanest of the...
Oh, yeah.
There's 3 different fights that are available here. Yeah, the fighters are the meanest of all of them.
Yeah, the gargoyle has some things that can be nasty about him. If you've got anyone with a bow and arrow, it's usually pretty easy to take care of. And then the Weeper Imp Cap Waterhag one is definitely the easiest.
Now it looks like Paranoia is going to be the first of our runners to go into Sylph Cave. He got a Porum, he did a grind on those eggs, and got float. And so we're seeing our first look at the Sylph Cave trapped chests here, and if there's anything of value. There are 7 trapped chests here in Sylph Cave, and some of them can be pretty annoying, like this Marlboro fight, where they will use breath and inflict all sorts of nasty status attacks on your party, which is why this location is often kind of fast, or you hope that there isn't anything in here because it's kind of an annoying spot.
And don't forget those dark trees. They actually have a pretty strong physical attack, all things considered, at this part of the game too. So, and I believe they can, in certain situations, they can cast Berserk on themselves and make themselves even scarier. Luckily, the dark trees are mage type enemies, so the Rune Axe does 4 times damage on them.
Yeah, it's kind of goofy how some of the different enemies have different weaknesses and such. Who would think that trees are weak to mage type attacks? Where did that come from? Zilch is on the last of the gauntlet fights, so we're just about to see if there's anything of value at this Odin spot. And I'm not sure if Nitsky actually got through Wyvern or if he's just noping out at this point.
Defense sword. A very good weapon that nobody in his team can use.
Yeah, again, another excellent piece of gear that like Kane or Cecil could use, but at this point, he's even resetting out. He's deciding not to even walk out of Baron Castle.
Well, Zilch is real for finding that magma key. Ever since then, he's kind of taken it on the chin a bit because he took 3 tries to defeat that Wyvern. Finally was able to get it done. I got nothing out of that. And then takes a long time, using really good strategy to defeat the gauntlet, but it's still a gauntlet fight in a pretty high HP spot. So it took a while to get through there. I got nothing for that too. It's like those are the sort of battles that you want to gamble on and have something important at. So that's too tough.
Yeah, for sure. And then yeah, like you said, both of those fights just having nothing of real value in them is that's the nature of randos, though. Rando gonna rando. So
that is the truth.
Nightdew is fighting the other boss that is at the bottom of the Feymarch, which is the Elements. Zilch went down there. I think it was Zilch who went down there originally. And oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Zilch. It was much Paranoia went down there. Yeah, and got the Darkness Crystal, but then noped out of this other boss. Did not want to fight it. So we'll see if there's anything of value here.
Yeah, just a karate shirt. But,
oh man!
But at that point, that was before Paranoia had done that grind that he's done now. Like at this point, Paranoia shouldn't have any problem with that fight if he decides to go back down there. Too bad for Nightdew though.
Paranoia's pulled out a couple of other nice items from untrapped chests here in Sylph Cave. We saw Stardust Rod, another Artemis Bow, and a Sorcerer Robe, which are all very nice for the party members that he has available.
And Paranoia also making use of the press select option to see all the bonuses to make sure if you don't have it all memorized or you don't have the sheet up, you can see exactly what bonus you're getting as far as, especially for the stat boosts on the equipment. So it's really handy. Sometimes just hit select, you'll know exactly what your equipment is getting. Very nice quality of life feature that's been added to the free enterprise game. I really like it. Recommend using it if you have any doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been several nice little quality of life improvements that have been made to this to free enterprise by the developer board base. That being one of them. I'm sorry. I saw a crystal, but it wasn't out of a trap chest. So sorry. I was about to say there was a crystal, but it was not for the actual crystal. But anyway, yeah. If you are in chat and you are listening and you're interested in this but haven't actually played it, definitely check out our Discord to find out more about the randomizer and more about the community. We'd love to have you stop by and check us out and join our community. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, apparently that was a crystal shield, according to Demarine, that I saw.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we ever make a KT Prime where the items can be in any treasure chest, like that would be something.
Yeah, at that point, trackers, you better be on your on your A game.
Have to go to like Chocobo Forest if I think that's right. There's a lot of treasure chests, like 398, I think, in the game.
That sounds right. I don't even know that I even know where all of them are. So yeah.
There was at least one or two. No, there's probably closer to a dozen that I learned about only through Free Enterprise, and I've been playing. Well, 399. I was off by one. I was pretty close. But yeah, I've been playing this game since it was released, and there were plenty of chests that I didn't know about.
Yeah, definitely. There were lots of things about this game that, despite the fact that I played it extensively when I was younger, I apparently had no idea about some of the hidden stuff until I started playing this. So.
And because of the nature of the randomizer, so many things weren't intended to be used in certain places that you get all this all these crazy strategies for bosses that you just don't see in the vanilla game, and that I think is a really fun part of Free Enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we're talking about trackers and the Discord and everything, I just want to do another shout out to our Restream team tonight. We've got Tarasu on Restream, restreaming our runners, and then Demarine 2 is our tracker tonight. And I wanted to shout out to Natara as well, who organizes the Monday night community races. Without these wonderful people, we wouldn't be able to put on these community races for all of you. And of course, thanks to Rex Raoul for commentating with me tonight.
You're welcome. I will say Natara is actually racing tonight. We're featuring these four that we've been watching tonight, but there's about a dozen people overall running the race tonight. Nobody's finished yet. We'll let you know if there is any finishers, especially if it's Natara.
Absolutely. Yeah, so all of our runners kind of, going back and checking places that we've seen already, except for Paranoia, who's still going through the trapped chests here in Sylph Cave. Here we find the Luca key, which is going to give Paranoia access to the sealed cave, which is another check in the underground. Not one that our runners are probably too happy to find. It's kind of a long check. It's a long cave. It only has one extra key item check at the end of it. The only kind of nice thing about it is that you can check the key item before you actually have to fight the boss. So if it's not something that you want or that you want to keep, then you can reset out of it before having to fight the boss.
Now, that said, Paranoia hasn't gone to Lower Babel yet, has that Earth Crystal in tow, so has a lot of things as well as that Darkness Crystal. It's going to be interesting to see when he decides to pull the trigger of it, if he does.
Yeah, so far we haven't seen any of our featured runners go to the moon yet, and there are lots of checks up on the moon. Besides the bosses up there, all of the trapped chests, and I think there's 9, 10 if you include the one in the path to the lunar subterranean path. There's going to be there's a lot of checks that are available up on the moon for them as well.
Night Dew now facing that Wyvern has a bit more targets for those counter nukes to be spread around, but looks like going to be using that Starveil summon strategy as well to proc the counter Mega Nuke, which will be reflected. And Paranoia fighting the Centipede fight. Definitely the easiest of the fights in the Sylph game.
Yeah, he's made pretty good work out of all of these trapped chest fights that are in here. There's a lot of experience to be had out of here too, so he's been able to power up his party pretty nicely. So far has not gotten anything else of value besides that Luca key, and in fact is just casually throwing away some stuff like an Excalibur that you don't need with this party, having to do some inventory management here.
Zilch and Nitsky now both in the Fey March. Night Dew having a lot less trouble with it. I think having the 5 characters versus the 3 that we saw both Zilch and Nits have made a big difference there. Looks like Paranoia is going to at least take the time to check the key item in the sealed cave. We'll see if that leads to anything important. Definitely going to take a save here. Either that or Paranoia may have saved outside of... No, going to save here. I thought I saw him fly by the lower tower, and sometimes we'll see runners make a save around where their next check is going to be, and then go to the sealed cave, make the check there, and then they can reset, and they'll be right next to where they need to be next. But in this case, just saved right outside, which is also easy to do.
Yeah, he looked like he was maybe going toward the entrance to the Underworld, like maybe he was thinking about going back up and talking to Sheila, since he did talk to Yang, but he didn't have the pan, so he would only get the Sheila 1 check if he goes back up to Babul, and then decided to go back down to Sealed Cave and do this check first.
Yeah, in addition to Sheila 1, he also has the Earth Crystal. Finds another pass in the Sealed Cave. So all three passes have been found.
It does look like all of our runners are either have the Darkness Crystal or are about to have it, since Nitsky just got it and Zilch is in the fight to obtain it. Night Dew going back up to the Overworld and going to make the check into Cave Magnus. So for those of you who missed the early music that we heard right at the beginning of the stream, we're going to get an encore here in just a few moments.
Oh, I missed the item, but it was definitely a quick reset out for Paranoia, so it wasn't something super important, at least. Looks like Demeron saying it was a moon veil. Thank you for the update there.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes our job a lot easier to have a tracker like Demarine on top of things like that. Moonveil is definitely a nice item, but not worth the time it's going to take to go through a boss and the walk back out of that dungeon.
Paranoia did a thing that I don't see a lot of runners do, but I've started doing it myself. As soon as he went back up to the overworld, he switched from the red airship to the yellow airship. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One, now you know exactly where you can go if you need to go to pick up that hovercraft again. And the other thing is, if you land your airship right outside Toria before going up and completing the Earth Crystal route at the top, the game will send you back to Baron Castle with the yellow airship. If you had flown that red airship over to Toria, then that red airship will be parked there, and there's only enough parking space for one airship at Toria. So you have to make a long hike there to use, for example, the pass later in the game. So I'm a big advocate of switching to the yellow airship.
And now we're getting an encore of Spoony Bee's tunes here on Night Dew's screen.
And Paranoia is the first of our runners to go to the moon. Going to be checking for value in Cave Bahamut. It looks like Zilch is going to be shortly behind Paranoia on the trip to the moon. Checking the boss, I believe that's going to be Mylon Z.
Yeah, it was a purple robe, and we've already seen Mylon in the Ghasts, so that is going to be Mylon Z here. Not too bad of a boss. He's only going to do physical attacks, so opening with a silk web, that's a good play. If you blink up on your party, you can negate those physical attacks entirely.
Yeah, between the blinks and the berserks, the silk web, there's a lot of things that you can do to try to make sure that this isn't going to be as scary a fight as it possibly is. Looks like Zilch is going to be checking that last arm check. One trap chest in the Giant of Babel. We'll see if he decides to actually check the bosses, because we still haven't seen the Mist Dragon yet, right?
I do not believe we have. No, this is definitely kind of an out of the way spot. So this is kind of a big play if there's anything here. But if it is, then this can really pay off for Zilch if he finds anything either at the trapped chest or at the boss spot. Now this boss spot is going to be a real pain if there is value here in Mist Dragon. So he's definitely hoping that it's not there.
Now there is also the possibility that Zilch wants to go here to do the D-Machine grind as well. So we'll see if that is here as well.
Yeah, definitely a good point, since he does have a full-powered Tela. If he goes into that, that'll be real interesting to discuss with the viewers. I think we'll save that if he actually shows it to us. Showing off a really nice strat here on the last arm, that the magnet can be reflected with a star veil. I actually didn't know that. That's a pretty cool strategy.
Yeah, if you can get somebody who's fast with wall ready queued up for that mag once the target is on there, it can definitely trivialize this last arm fight.
There was no value in Cave Bahamut. All that was found there was a silver hammer, which is a weapon that can be used by Sid, but it's not even a very good weapon, especially since we've seen multiple things like Artemis bows and rune axes so far.
And so Paranoia is now going to the other kind of out-of-the-way place on the lunar surface, which is the Lunar Pass, which has one trap chest. We tend to call these the hair dryers because they're kind of shaped like hair dryers.
Nightdew is going to make the play up into the Tower of Zot to use that Earth Crystal that we have found but not seen what is up here yet.
That last arm chest did have a key item. It was the pan. And that's going to open up two potential key item locations on the overworld. One from the Sylphs themselves and one for Sheila too. So that's a big find by Zilch.
Yeah, that's definitely a big play on Zilch's part. He is going up to the save point that's at the end of the giant here. So either he's planning on checking the boss. Yeah, it looks like he's planning on checking the boss. We'll see if he also decides to do a grind here after picking the boss.
That is what you want to see there.
Wow, for sure. That is King and Queen Eblin. This is a completely free fight. All you have to do is wait for them to cast a few spells on you, say some dialogue about bringing you down into the Hades, and then they disappear all by themselves. He's going to be able to get through this fight really easily, get a lot of experience, and then check the second boss after this, which usually takes a long time to get to because this spot has a ton of HP that you normally have to fight through to get to the second boss that's at the end of the giant here.
Nothing doing in the hairdryer's chest. I'm going to check the shop for Paranoia in the Hummingway abode.
Chat is calling for demist at the CPU location. That's about the trolliest that you can get, if that is what we're actually about to find here.
Not as much trolley if it's only behind King, Queen, and Evelyn.
That's true. It's just that a lot of people probably aren't going to even bother to check this, at least not right away.
That much I'll definitely agree. Paranoia finds Bacchus wines in the shop. That's going to be a very useful item for the rest of the scene, without a doubt.
And here we see the King and Queen of Eblan use their magic power up and just kind of disappear. Zilch got lots of XP for just kind of standing there and cast some spells on him. And now we're going to see what is at the CPU location at the end of the Giant of Babel here. Is this going to be at CPU?
Well, it's another free fight.
So this is worth a lot of XP, which is good for Zilch since he's right here and is able to kind of do a grind here. It's not so great because neither of these locations actually are going to give you a key item, so it probably would have been better to see these fights somewhere on the moon where you're actually going to have the chance to get a free item from them.
Yeah, but when you're dealing with free fights at high XP spots, you don't say no to them either.
No, and we see him do a really heads-up play here by stopping them, using coffins, and then using life potion to life glitch them. So he got a lot of XP from those guards there. And we're about to see something that we almost never see on Restream, which is the character check at the end of the Giant of Babel.
Naitu finding Kane Azo up at the top of the Tower of Zot. He's got enough levels that it shouldn't be a very difficult fight at all.
Yeah, this is yet another boss that can be really, really scary if you encounter it in the wrong location. But here at the top of Zot, not too difficult at all.
So Paranoia is now going through the lunar subterrane. Looks like methodically going from top to bottom, checking trap chests. Already found the double red giant trap chest. There's a bunch of trap chests in the lunar subterrane. Some of them are very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. I think we just got an adamant armor off of Nightdew's screen at the top of Zot.
Ooh, and we see the D-Mist hanging out in Pale Dim spot on Paranoia's screen. So that's an interesting find.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to be basically a double key item check for Paranoia. He'll get a check for defeating this spot itself, and then he'll get another check if he decides to go back down to the planet and talk to Rydia's mother.
That's one of those things where it becomes, how soon do you want to go back and check?
Yeah, especially since he just started his dive into the moon. He's pretty close to the entrance. He's not very far in. Does he decide to nope out right now and go back down and see if this is it? Or is he going to go down and full clear the rest of the moon first?
If there was a time to break it up and head down to the bottom, it would be now. Because this is the end of like one of the paths in the lunar subterrane with this Pale Dim location. So you'd either have to walk back a few floors or use the exit spell to get out of here anyways. So at that point, it might be worth it to go down, check the, make that play on Radius Bomb, and then come back and do the rest of the Lunar Subterranean. Now, that is a couple more of the animation of the big whale going to and from the moon. That is definitely something to be considered. And if he wants to just save that time, it would be more efficient to just clear out the Lunar Subterranean. But it's a gamble, and it's always a gamble when you're randomizers.
Yeah, definitely. On Zilch's screen, we saw Zilch go back down into the Sylph Cave and whack Young with the pan that he got from the last arm chest. All he got from the Sylphs themselves was a chain whip, but he got the package from Sheila 1 and he got the tower key from Sheila 2. And it looks like he is immediately going to follow up on that and go into the Tower of Babel and check that tower key location.
Yeah, at this point, I would say that he's pretty much committed to following this chain.
Yeah, definitely. When you get this key item chain like this, and it just keeps going, and you find another key item that leads into another key item, you kind of get committed into following it to its end.
Yeah, and this is one of those, because especially with how out of the way that pan was that kind of started it all. This is like one of these things where, like, he's already invested a lot of time just to get to the pan. So if it's going to pay off, he's got to go through with it. Because if he abandons it, then that's just wasted time.
And we see yet another kind of nasty boss here in the tower location. This is Baigan. This is a really easy spot. So again, finding another pretty nasty boss in a pretty easy location is pretty heads up for our runners here.
Yeah, there have been other than I think like the Rubicant back attack and the Wyvern at the top of the tower. Other than that, the bosses have been pretty easy. I guess depending on when you tried to fight that Elements fight down at the Feymarch, that could be scary too. But other than that, it's been pretty okay for the bosses so far this season. Though we still have the bottom of the Lunar Subterranean. Those could be some scary bosses too. Paranoia finds a rock, the Adamant. If this was V1, which we're all used to playing, well, not all, I shouldn't assume that. A lot of people are used to playing for practice for the upcoming league. The Adamant becomes a lot more exciting. In this, it's just a rock.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the league, just to kind of ping that real quick, the link to more information, I just threw it up in the chat, but the qualifiers for the league start next Tuesday, coming up really quick here. If you're not familiar with it, check out the links that are in the chat. There's our crystal.
Galaxy Brain Play for Zilk.
That definitely. So we just found our crystal. That came from that pan chain that started in the Giant of Babel from the last arm chest. So from the last arm chest, we got the pan. From the pan, whacking Yang with the pan and then turning it into Sheila, we got the tower key, and then from the tower key we got the crystal. So, and that's definitely an out of the way spot to start that whole chain.
And all three of the other runners have what they need to start that chain, which is the darkness crystal. So since they've got that, they can make that check at any time. The question is when they pull the trigger on how many people are going to route that darkness crystal into the Giant of Babel as early as Zilch decides to when going to the moons.
Like somebody like Paranoia, who looks like he is committed to doing Moon, probably all of Moon, and then also has
he has some stuff that he hasn't checked yet on the
Yeah, he's got Mist Dragon that he can go turn in, and who knows what else he's going to get there's like rat tail and a few other things that can still be turned in yet, that he hasn't done yet. I don't think he's done Earth Crystal yet.
He
So
hasn't
he's got other things.
he hasn't
Yeah,
done Earth Crystal. He hasn't done Lower Tower.
yeah.
He
So
hasn't done Baron, which you get for the Lower Tower.
yeah, so there's a lot of rabbit holes that people can do and maybe even are likely to do before going into the Giant of Babel, which is a pretty out of the way check.
And Paranoia finding the Legend Sword, the other ingredient in V1 that's pretty useless today. Now, at this point, Paranoia could go to Kokol's hut and forge an Excalibur. The only thing that would open is another shop, which I don't think he'd be too interested in at this point.
It'd be great if you had a Cecil or maybe even an Edge. You could dart it, but yeah, right now all he can do with that sword itself is sell it, which he probably doesn't need since he's probably rolling in money at this point. But yeah, we were kind of talking about the league before we got interrupted by the crystal find. The league starts next week. If you're interested, check out the links that we dropped in ago. There's still plenty of time to sign up, plenty of time to practice. We'd love to see you get involved. Join us on the Discord. Join us for watch some matches. Come out and join us, play some matches with us starting next week, Tuesday evening.
Paranoia finding another trap chest, the double Warlock, double carry. This is one of the best for just getting experience. Relatively easy to life glitch, susceptible to the hourglass, and a pretty decent amount of XP that they're worth. So that's one of the kinder fights to find in there. Find some Artemis arrows, not a key item, but still useful.
We found a lot of Artemis arrows and at least a couple of Artemis bows. So those SIDS, that's about the best weapon combination that you can give those SIDS.
Yeah, I think that's just the best. I mean, the Rune Axe is pretty good on power, but its hit percent is pretty low. So it ends up, even though it's got a lot, like, if you compare it to even the Ogre Axe, which has lower attack power, you'll find the Ogre Axe generally does more damage, even though the Rune Axe has more power. And that's kind of the thing with some of Sid's weapons. It's kind of hard to judge them on face value.
Now, compared to the Warlocks and Carries fights, these dragons, particularly the red and blue dragon fight here, well, arguably the double red dragon is worse, but either of the dragon fights are the worst that you can get out of the trapped chests. They have the boss bit, which means that you can't stop them, you can't use status effects on them. They hit really hard. They do AoE attacks that do a lot of damage. They're really scary.
Zilch faking us all out, thinking that he might be ready for the Zero Spike, but really just needs to get some more sirens so that he can crack some more eggs.
We all got so excited for a moment there.
Okay, so Night Dew is now summoning the big whale. We'll see if Night Dew makes the same Galaxy Brain play that Zilch did and heads to the giant first.
Nitsky, meanwhile, is doing stuff in the Fey March. He's already got the Darkness Crystal, I think. Is he trying to get through the Elements fight that's down here?
Yeah, he had tried it earlier, and when he was much lower level, and took an unfortunate wipe in that fight. So it looks like he's back for some revenge.
Yeah, that can be a pretty nasty boss in general, and those boss spots that are down here in the Fey March are just nasty spots no matter what's down here, unless it's something really free like Dark Imps or something like that. So we know that darkness crystal is where it's at, but if you're trying to like full clear the planet before you do anything on the moon or anything
Yeah.
with the darkness crystal, then you can get kind of hung up on some of these spots.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think there's a lot of people who, like, for me, I often try to full clear the blue planet just because I want to see, like, I know the time that it takes to enter the big whale, see that little animation play to go from the blue planet to the moon and back. And that just takes up time. And so I wanted to see that as few times as possible throughout a seed. Um, but, how often is there nothing on the moon? That's the other thing that you got to think of in those sorts of situations.
Yeah, definitely. It's like making the play for panless Yang or keyless tower, doing
Right.
those checks to talk to Yang without the pan, or do the top of the lower Tower of Babel without the tower. Sometimes those can really, really pay off. But if you end up having to go back into those locations with the key item to get the second check, it can take a lot of extra time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you've really got to commit to what you're doing. And this double dipping is a lot more committing. And now Zilch is cashing in his pass.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think he's going to go for the double fake out here. I think Zilch to go up to the moon with that pass. And we have a question that we need to ask, Rex. Do you want to tonight?
Yeah, I'll ask. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight? Because it is butt time.
Yeah, so I see a bunch of Z flags coming out in chat, Z Who flags. We're about to, with the Z flag on tonight, we are about to see which Z sprite Scala Kitty has given us for tonight's race. Chat getting their guesses in for Digimon, Strong Batamus, Door Trainamus, Poramus. we have lots of good guesses here. I'm really excited to see what we actually find tonight.
Looks like we have Zycomus.
I have no idea what that is. Oh, and Venerable is saying it's from Wild Arms.
Yeah, the sword kind of looks like it was from Soul Calibur, but definitely don't recognize the character from Soul Calibur. Wild Arms sounds like where we're at.
All of these sprites are very impressive. Special thanks to Scala Kitty, as always, for making these very beautiful and impressive sprites for our Z flags.
Not a surprise, Tella takes a quick nap during this fight.
We should note that nobody off stream has finished yet, so it is possible that Zilch could be our first finisher if he gets through this fight and nobody else is in their Z fight right now along with him.
With the location of the pan, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Zilch isn't the only person in the Zeramis fight at this point.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Because that was just such an out-of-the-way place to check through it. Yeah, our restreamer Taras was saying, "Let the metagaming begin." I don't know if you're going to metagame and decide that the right choice is to go to the last arm check.
Well, the metagaming may begin, but I think it's going to be to all the wrong places. So,
Yeah, that's
once, yeah. Oh, and Groundfire giving a bunch of gifted subs out. Thank you very much for that. Meanwhile, the rest of our runners are still making their checks. I believe that Much Paranoia is at the Wyvern spot. Nitsky is going through the trapped chests in Sylph Cave right now. I'm not sure where Nightdew is. I missed where he found Plague. It looked somewhere up on the moon, but I'm not sure which spot it is.
Yeah, I believe this is down at the bottom. One of the either. Oh, now I can't even talk. Either the Vanilla Plague location or next door at the.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I don't think Paranoia has gotten down to those spots. He's going top down, and Nightdew may have run all the way down to the bottom and is doing bottom up, which is a pretty common play to start with, like the D-Lunars location and then work your way back up.
Yeah, there's a like. I think both plays are fine, going from the top down or the bottom up, especially when trap chests are in play. I don't think it really much matters because there's just so many checks that you have to make. We got a couple wins. It looks like it was that Lunar D's spot. Does not get any key items out of that.
Yeah, that's since it has a lot of experience available and it is 2 key items for 1 boss, that's a pretty common spot to run to immediately after getting to the moon. Now, it did look like Paranoia got the spoon from the Wyvern spot. That's going to be really nice if they decide to go back and get an Edward using the rescue flag.
Well, Zilch got pretty low on health for a little while, but looks like was able to recover pretty well, and now hopefully he's going to be able to make short work. I think a lot of the danger has passed. There was got pretty low for a moment, but everything seems to be back fine now.
Yeah, it looks like he's been doing reflex strats. And now we see the flash. That is GG for Zilch. And Zilch has come in first place with a time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 14 seconds.
Yeah, GG's to Zilch. Very, very well done. And we'll get Zilch in for an interview in just a moment. As Chokosura says in the chat, that last RNG though, without a doubt, that was crazy.
Yeah, and now, as Tarasu said earlier, let the metagaming begin, because as soon as the rest of the runners see the .done in the chat, in the IRC chat, they are going to start contemplating where Zilch went to find that crystal, and they're going to, make their own conclusions, and maybe potentially some of them are going to reroute and go to different locations based on that .done.
And I believe we are now joined by Zilch. Zilch, GG on your run tonight.
Thank you. Hopefully no one was watching that Zeromus fight.
You got it done in the end. Whether it got hairy for a moment, it was successful, and that's all that counts, right?
Yeah, sure. We'll ignore killing off characters left and right, but yeah.
Hey, we can concentrate on the rest of your run if you would like. That last arm play was quite the heads-up play. What made you decide to go check the Giant of Babel before going anywhere else after you pulled up the big whale?
Mainly it's because early I did the Twin Harp, which I feel like may have cost me some time. So then I kind of committed to some chains, and I committed to doing the Gauntlet at Odin's spot. I was way behind, so I figured I needed to take gambles, so I was going to check the Giant and commit to that no matter what. Bosses for Demas, that was also on they were free, and I figured just go down the gamble path.
So basically, it was like a Hail Mary.
It was a series of Hail Marys, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw you, you kind of stalled a little bit against Wyvern. You got through that Football Gauntlet fight, but it was kind of a time sink. So yeah, you were making the big plays. They just weren't really paying off for you. So then when you made the big play for that pan, and it did pay off for you, that definitely made up for all the other ones that didn't quite pay out earlier in the run for you.
Yeah, I think by that point I was pot committed to chase all the crazy chains I could find. So,
well, it was interesting.
And hope one of them paved off.
It was interesting watching your run of some of the other people that were on the restream, because another decision that you made was you decided to climb Mount Ordeals before going down the hook route. A couple of the other runners went straight to Eblin instead of going up Ordeals. You were able to find that magma key, and although they had a bit of a head start going down there, that magma key caught you up significantly. And so it was just really interesting to see who is ahead, who is a little behind, and when are they going to make that play that's going to get them to that crystal. And so there were so many different choices open for you, and it's just real interesting that you decided to make that play, because of course you don't know where anybody else is, but you still felt behind.
Yeah, well, the Ordeals I didn't do because I felt behind. I figured I would do it anyway with the intention of D-Machine grinding, which I probably should have done while I was on. But I figured I'd get a Tella at some point, and I could use him to the D-Machine.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because it's sort of like when you got to that second fight on there, I imagine that you were thinking, I just want to see what it is, and then I'll reset and do a D-Machine grind. And then it turned out that it was going to be absolutely free, and you're like, well, might as well do it.
I figured it'd give a lot of experience. It would get me close to where I needed.
Yeah.
Eggs than I would have liked to go all the way, but yeah, with life glitching, I was like, yeah, I should do this. So I figured it'd be shorter than trying to go back, warping out through the giant.
Sure. Any other thoughts on this flag set or this seed, all things considered?
Flag set felt like gamble percent, because like you're only looking for that one item and it could be anywhere.
Right.
So I approached it. Like I ignored the two chests in Eblin Cave, and I figured if someone's gonna done, and it'd be like under an hour mark if it's one of those two.
Sure, yeah.
Metagame that.
Yeah, I was going to say
I like the rejects.
The only real thing of value that was that was through that hook route was a pass. And so when you got the magma key and we saw you go down into the underground using the magma key, we were like, oh, the only thing he missed was the pass. But then you found one almost immediately when you went into Lower Babel.
I was happy to see that pass. I'm like, okay, great. In good shape. And then all the chains.
And are you?
Yeah, I like the flag set. I like all the characters that rejects. As long as Yang's not included, that's great.
Rex would agree with you there.
Yeah, as long as Yang's not included on any seed, that's a good thing.
Agreed.
Are you going to be playing in the upcoming league?
Yeah, I should be playing every now and then.
Well, then hopefully this win here will give you good. I don't know if momentum is actually anything in free enterprise, but it sounded like a good thing to say.
Sure. I mean, I felt like I played this seed really badly, but and then I just got really lucky. So
I mean, rando's gonna rando, so luck is gonna be part of any seed. So
Only thing I enjoyed doing, like, I felt like, oh, this felt great, was that, like, I don't know if you're watching my second ordeals fight, but my suicide Sid to get through the second fight was, I enjoyed that.
yes, that was like we weren't sure if you were counting hit points there or but when we saw you queue up the kamikaze, we were like, oh, we hope that's gonna be enough because you already only had like 20 hit points left.
The Boreas did like 2,800 or 18, I don't know, something. Yeah, I enjoyed that play.
Yeah, I thought that your I thought your whole run. I thought your whole run. I mean, even though some of your plays didn't lead to the right places. Wyvern didn't give you anything. Will Gauntlet didn't give you anything, but you still handled them well. You did have to try a couple times on Wyvern, but that Wyvern's going to be a problem in a lot of spots. So equipping that Dragon Whip and then equipping the Artemis arrows to get through that. It was a pretty heads up play, having to utilize all the items that you had available to you.
I like my initial. Oh, I forgot it was in Wyvern or build, but I tried to play it off as if I was planning to just cast summons with Rydia and reflect Mega Nuke.
Yeah, and again, I thought that was actually a pretty heads up play. It's just that he ended up being a little bit fast for you, so you weren't able to get enough damage out to him before he reflect nuked. Yeah, you didn't have enough party members too. You only had the 3 characters at that point.
Off the first time, so.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us and thank you for letting us watch your stream.
Thanks for commentary, restreaming, tracking, all that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and GG on your finish, and we will see you at the next race, and hopefully next week when the league starts.
Sounds good. All right, take care, guys.
Take care. That was
you too.
That was Zilch. Make sure you follow him. Very good run tonight. I want to point out that we did have off screen a second place finisher. BG Rich 419 has finished in second place at 146.11. So GG's to BG Rich.
Indeed, GG to our second place finisher. Meanwhile, we see the rest of our runners are still going through the checks that we know are not going to lead to anything, but as we have talked about, all of these checks that are available to them that, normally these are where you're going to go first before you go make those kind of out of the way checks. So they're checking all the spots on the moon. We saw Nitsky just go through everything in Sylph Cave. So we'll see if anyone decides, now that kind of Moon and Sylph Cave has been cleared up, if anyone decides to go back to the Giant of Babel next.
Looks like Night Dew heading back to the blue planet right now. Did Night Dew find that Mist Dragon spot? Is he gonna go check Mist Village?
I didn't explicitly see, but I guess I was going to say, I assume that he did if he full cleared Moon, but he may or may not have full cleared Moon yet. It looks like he's picking up. Oh, he's got the rat tail. He picked up. Yeah, he's picking up his. Yeah.
So I imagine that people who saw that Pale Dim Mist Dragon I think that might be a metagame choice people make. But again, who knows what people are going to think in the moment. Dragoon Spear is the reward for turning in the rat tail. Of course, gets an adamant armor for the pink tail, which is a very nice pickup. So I can definitely see wanting to make those exchanges right now.
Yeah, and the Dragoon Spear would be great if we had a Dragoon in the party, but unfortunately we don't, so that's not going to do. Night Dew. Yeah, Night Dew is going to go up to Mount Ordeals after having cleared the hook route to get to the underground very early in his play here, and is going to be probably really disappointed and borderline upset when he finds out what's at the top of Mount Ordeals here.
Yeah, that's not going to be. Yeah, that's going to be unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of thing, like, at this point, I mean, we've been at that point for a long time where any one check could be that crystal. And so the question is, there's a couple of things that you've got working against you. Since it's like an hour and 40 when somebody finally gets the finish, you've gone through a decent amount of the seed. But really, especially when we saw all 4 of our runners have that darkness crystal access, quite a bit before Zilch finished the run, which means basically everything is open to the run at that point in time. So it's not like there's an obvious choice like, oh, this should be it. Like if somebody finished a KQMT seed at like 50 minutes, then that would be really like there's something early that this crystal is found at. But at an hour 40, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it was finished sub-hour, then it would be much more obvious to everyone else who hadn't finished that it was something probably above ground, like Ordeals or Antlion Cave or one of the trapped chests that's available right from the get-go, something like that. But yeah, with the first place finisher coming in with a time of sub or past 90 minutes, then yeah, it can be pretty much anywhere at this point. So the stat done doesn't really give them a whole lot of information at this point. Right. So Night 2 getting his magma key. It's a key item. Let me see. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks like this is putting him at 9 key items, I believe, because the pass doesn't count. If you get 10 key items, then you get double XP. So, that's about it. The only thing that's kind of given.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good out of this, but that is what good is out of that challenge. Much paranoia fighting a behemoth fight. Using the illusion strategy, it just makes it so that these Rydias aren't going to get bodied by the behemoth, while the berserk Sids deal the physical damage against them. Excuse me.
Yeah, behemoths can be pretty nasty. They counter every physical attack with a really powerful physical attack of their own. So if you fight them at low levels or with party members who don't have a lot of HP, they can wreck your party pretty quickly. But his party is pretty high level with his Porum and his Rydia having over 2,000 HP, and now with the illusions up, just negating all those physical attacks, not going to have much trouble with this fight.
Yeah, once Paranoia finds that crystal, he won't need to do like any grinding. He is all set up for the end fight right now, I'd say. Speaking of grinding, Nitsky is fighting the double King Ryu fight, one of the preferred Siren grinds in Free Enterprise. Get a lot of experience for just killing 2 gold dragons. They have a pretty high HP, but they are vulnerable to stuff like weak, and you can life glitch them, you can stop them. They're pretty easy to defeat a lot of the time, but if you're going to just rely on a Berserk Sid with a Dwarf Axe, it's going to take a while to take these dragons down.
Yeah, if he had something like a Dragon Whip or Artemis arrows, that would make it go a lot faster, since they are considered dragons, and those types of weapons do extra damage against dragon-type enemies. But it looks like he's just relying on the physical attacks from Sid and then supplementing with some spells from his Rydia here.
And here comes Much Paranoia, making the play to the giant.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, he's going to find the pan to start, and hopefully he's going to follow up on that chain right away.
I think this is actually not a bad play, even in general. I mean, we of course know it's a great play because this is where it's at, but I kind of like this because it. Uh, Much Paranoia has full cleared the moon at this point. And so now just needs to do everything. Now, he's got that Mist Village to check. He's got that Rat Tail to check. And you'd think just going back down to the Blue Planet through the Giant, or through the Big Whale would just be the way to do it. But this is actually a really good play because with this, he will only have to go into the Big Whale this one more time, because once he's done with this, he'll be back on the Blue Planet anyways. So he's killing two birds with one stone by going through the Giants to get back to the Blue Planet.
Yeah, and he, as we said earlier, he's pretty much got the levels ready to go into his Zeromus fight as soon as he gets his crystal. I don't think he's going to need to have to do any grinding at this point.
Okay, and he's defeated the last arm, so he's going to get that pan. And so now he does have a lot of checks back on the Blue Planet, and the question is, how soon is he going to make it that pan? Is he going to, or how soon is he going to go down to Sylph and turn in that pan?
Yes, because he, he could go turn the Rat Tail in. I don't think he's done that yet.
No.
Not that that takes very long, but I don't think he's done like Earth Crystal yet either, has he?
No, he hasn't done Earth Crystal. He hasn't done anything in the tower yet. So, luckily, well, the question is, if he goes to Sylph Cave and turns in the pan before tower, he'll be fine. If he goes to the tower before turning in the pan and getting that tower key, then it could be bad because he might be baited by the Baron key, which is located inside the tower.
It looks like he's going to go turn in Mist Dragon, which I don't think anyone has seen yet. So we'll see what this gives him.
It's just a power robe. I mean, it's a good piece. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It's a good piece of armor. It gives a very good strength boost for anyone that you want to berserk, but ultimately not what Paranoia is looking for, of course. I imagine he'll make at least the Rat Tail check before going down to Sylph Cave, but...
Yeah, looks like he's going to collect his hovercraft right now. Again, this is a really quick check, only takes seconds to turn this in.
See Bubba's and Tifa's making some Lucas references. Power shirt. I can't complain about that.
Paranoia collecting the Dragoon Spear and the Adamant Armor from the Adamant Grotto here. So yeah, now we're gonna see where he's gonna go from here. He has what he needs. It's just a matter of whether he's gonna follow up on it now or if he's gonna get baited by a rabbit hole.
Yeah, Zilcheski, if there's any adamant armors, completing the Tower of Zod gave an adamant as well.
Paranoia going into Sylph Cave, so it looks like he is going to follow up on the pan. I'm not surprised, even though he does have other checks that he could make, because the pan is another pretty quick check. It doesn't take long to go down in here, and it's worth 3 key item checks total, 1 from the Sylphs and then 2 from Sheila once you turn the pan in. So even though he does have other checks that he could be making, this is a good play.
And Tracker Demerin 2 saying 2 total adamants in the seed that we know of. Every single Chocobo forest could be holding an adamant armor for all we know.
Yeah, I saw this discussion in the Discord the other day. Every check that you don't make has an adamant armor. So all these chests that we haven't checked, like the waterway, the water, the waterway between Kaipo and Damsian, all those are adamant armors right now.
Schrodinger's adamant armor. Okay.
Yes, 18 adamant armors. Yes.
Okay, this is good. Paranoia is making the path up to Sheila. Gonna turn in, gonna get that tower key. And then the question is Earth Crystal or Tower? Because I think we're avoiding Baron now. Because I don't think Paranoia is gonna zip out of the tower before checking all of the spots there. But he could do Zot, since he's already in the overworld. I don't think he'll go right to Baron afterwards because he doesn't have the Baron key. Baron key is in tower, and Paranoia has avoided the tower so far. But he's going underground, so that means that he's going to the tower.
Yeah, so he is eventually, at least hopefully, going to get that crystal once he clears this tower, but it is going to take him a few minutes yet because he has to open all these chests. There's four trap chests in here, and he may get baited by the wyvern that's at the top of the tower here. Now, with his levels, he's probably not going to have too much trouble with that wyvern, but it's still, going to be a fight that he's going to have to get through if he decides to go all the way up there, which he probably will.
Yeah, I imagine he'll at least check that. Yeah, I actually can't imagine that. Well, I mean, there is the Penguinator half tower play, but I don't think that's what you make at this point of the run.
Nightdew is peeking into the Luca cave, sealed cave, with the Luca key here. We know from earlier this was a moon veil. He's checking some of the chests. He got a ribbon out of one of these chests, a really nice piece of equipment. Now, whether he decides to keep it or not is going to be another question, because since there's not a key item at the end of this here, he may decide to just reset out and ditch all the items that he's getting from these chests that he's opening.
Oh, and this guy gonna get that hook.
Yeah, Nitsky never did Antlion Cave, so going all the way back to what is usually one of the very first dungeons that our runners go to, all the way back up here at Antlion.
And sometimes people decide to skip that early Antlion check if they don't have somebody who can cast Exit. And so that might have been the reasoning that Nitz made. Now, since that Magnum key was found up on top of Mount Reveals, no harm, no foul, really. Oh, I'm just glad that didn't get the "do not fight now" message.
Nightdew went and made Sheila 1 check, but hasn't gotten the pan yet, so wasn't able to turn it in to get the tower key.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the... With that really out of the place pan, that's what makes it really rough.
Nothing like a casual nuke to take out these alerts in the trapped chests in Lower Babel here.
Oh, Night Dew going back to the moon, not to the giant. Paranoia picks up that Baron key. As long as he doesn't forget to go into the super cannon room, you should avoid that rabbit hole. And now Paranoia about to fight that wyvern up at the top of the tower, or the top of the bottom of the tower. If that makes sense.
Nitsky following up on the Baron key, using that to go into Baron Castle. Lots of rabbit holes with this KQMT flag set. So, and especially like we've said with the chain being in such an out of the way place, it's not uncommon at all, as we're seeing here, for these runners to just check all of these other spots before going to where we know is the spot that has the goods.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, Paranoia at a much higher level to fight this wyvern than we saw some of the other runners where they had some difficulty against this, or for this fight. This shouldn't be too tough for him.
Yeah, even the reflected nukes not one-shotting at least his SIDS. Although I don't know if he just doesn't know or forgot that this is going to be a mega nuke reflector or a mega nuke counter or not.
Or maybe just knows that it's a low magic power spot and can tank it, which is what exactly what happened.
Yeah, he did have a wall up on his Rydia, so it's got some of that damage reflected back onto Wyvern. So yeah, he's doing. This is not going to be too much longer before he's able to get through this spot.
And now just changing over to reflecting nukes.
Getting an assassin dagger for his trouble, and now resetting out, decides he doesn't even want to keep that. The very last check here in the tower on the way back down is, hopefully going to be the, since he just got that.
Yeah. Excellent. Does not forget to take a right turn there.
Actually have done that. Yeah.
Many times.
yeah. Making your way back out of the tower, even if I don't have the crystal, and I'm like, wait, where am I going? Why I haven't checked tower yet?
I'll be like on floor 1, like, oh, I guess I need to walk all the way back up.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, I'm still holding this tower key. What am I doing? I think Night Dew, when he came up here originally, had just checked the bosses, the lunar bosses on the moon, and is now coming back and checking the trapped chests. Yeah. Well, Paranoia is going to be rewarded for his trouble momentarily here. We so far have not seen a third place finisher, so he could be in the running for that third place spot.
And now Paranoia is going to be rewarded with this crystal here.
And we see him, it looks like he is going
Right
directly
to
to Troya. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a surprise. After full clearing the moon, where you've got all those trap chests and all those bosses under your belt, that's plenty of experience to get to the final fight. Not a surprise that he doesn't have to do any sort of grinding up.
Yeah, it looks like he's just doing some quick last-minute checks on his equipment and items here, and then he's going to be going into his Z fight momentarily.
Yeah, and he's gonna want to make sure that he's got his equipment exactly how he wants it to be for the fight. Meanwhile, Nitsky now making that play to the gauntlet in the Odin spot.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that he might think that this is where is at because that Odin spot is a little bit out of the way, and then with it being Gauntlet for sure, that's a kind of a trolly boss to begin with. So I'm not surprised that he would think that that's where it might be. Unfortunately, he's just getting a defense sword for that fight.
And I would also add that although like where that first and second finishers finish wouldn't cause anyone to metagame. Now that it's been quite a while since those two finished and we haven't had anybody else come in, then that might be thinking that the metagame might change to, oh, this might be somewhere really out of the way. So people might be thinking that last arm more. So we'll see. Because the metagame changes. Like if there was a flood of people coming in, it's different than nobody else coming in after the finish. So
yeah, because it has been. Let's see when our second place finisher. Let's see. He finished at. Oh yeah, it's been
about 30 minutes.
What? 30 minutes since he finished. Yeah, that's a long time between finishers, especially like the top two spots between them and like everybody else.
Right. But Paranoia is now in the Zeramis fight. Tella being useful, actually kept using the crystal. He's going to be taking a nap before too long, of course. Nightdew defeated the Mist Dragon. We'll see if he decides to head back down to the blue planet for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes straight back down and turns that in, thinking could be where it is. He is making a safety save here, so yeah, it looks like he's going to go back down and turn that in, but then he could come right back up here if this is where he wants to continue after finding out that Viridia's mother does not have what he's looking for.
Yeah, if he plans to do more battling in the lunar subterranean, then making that save up there makes a lot of sense. Of course, we know that it's not going to be beneficial to him to go back up to the moon, but it's definitely, like, from his point of view, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Those safety saves and then resetting out to get to like critical points like that are definitely heads up plays. When you're playing blind like this, obviously all the rest of our runners can't see where anybody else is like we can. So definitely a good strategy on their part. Now it does look like Nightdew is deciding to keep the item that he's getting from Viridia's mother, that power shirt. We have talked about that. That's a pretty nice piece of equipment for his SIDS. So instead of saves coming out back up to the moon, he's decided to keep that piece of equipment.
Well, this is another opportunity. Nightdew might be thinking all around in the giant. Nope.
Nope. Now it does look like we had a third place finisher. Sniping that third place from Much Paranoia, we have Woo Bear coming in with a time of 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 59 seconds. So GG to Woo Bear.
GG indeed. This is definitely one of those seeds where I would say if you finish the seed kudos to you. This is you have to go out of your way in order to complete this seed. So
Yeah, for sure. Anyone who's running tonight and completes this, more power to them, because it's a long seed. Anything that's going to be KQMT is long to begin with. But then with this party, these rejects, it's even more grueling because, these are the weakest party members that are available. So having to defeat all these boss spots and all these trapped chests and everything else with this party, that's no easy feat.
And although I would say this isn't, like, you could get a lot more technically difficult seeds than this one. You could have really nastier bosses in different spots. And for the most part, this seed was pretty kind to the runners as far as that goes. This endurance race of getting through and going through that to that last arm chain is not something to be taken lightly.
Yeah, for sure. Now on Paranoia's screen, we see some interesting strategies. Whereas Zilch had done reflect strats, Paranoia's doing hybrid strats, where it looks like he has zerked his Sids and his Quorum. And she's got a bow and arrow equipped, and then is doing reflected nukes with his Rydia. And there we see the flash.
GG's to Much Paranoia, finishing in 4th place at a time of 2 hours, 18 minutes, 46 seconds. GG's very well to Much Paranoia.
GG. And we're going to see if we can get Paranoia in for an interview in just a moment here. Meanwhile, it looks like we're getting a second encore on music on Nitskai's screen. If we can get music on Nitskai's stream here. Thank you very much to our restreamer, Tarasu. Nitsky even being a man for the people and showing us what the music at Twin Harp is. And now I believe that we are joined by Paranoia. GG on your finish, Paranoia.
I'm...
A little conflicted, are you?
Just a bit.
Well, we were just saying while you were in your Z fight that, we were giving props to anyone who sees this through to the end, since the kind of a grueling seed, all things considered.
Well, I think the problem for me is I started from top to bottom of lunar subterranean, so it took me a hot moment to get to what I needed. Wait, was it? I mean, what gave the tower key again? I can't remember.
The tower key was given by Sheila 2, which he needed the pan for, and the pan was in the last arm chest.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a chain because, that's a pretty out of the way spot where that all started at that last arm chest. Obviously, not a lot of people go to that. So far, only you and Zilch have been to it on stream, and then only 2 other people off stream have finished. So that's definitely an out-of-the-way location. Not a lot of people are going to think to go there early, and then to follow up on that chain afterward.
Yeah, I got Earth Crystal, and we started the Twin Harbor, like, you know what? Nah.
Yeah, at least you avoided a couple of things. I think by not doing the tower, it seemed like from the way that you were playing that you were trying to avoid double dipping in places. By going to the moon before you went to the tower, for example. Is that what?
I didn't really want to double dip into the tower, no. I'm just like, maybe I can find the tower key and not have to go up it twice.
Right, exactly. And that might have saved you some additional stress because if you would have gotten through the tower earlier, then you would have gotten the Baron key, which might have led you down that rabbit hole, which that would have led you to the gauntlet at Odin, which was just another long fight that didn't give anything. So.
Oh, I am so glad I avoided Odin's spot. Then why does Odin's spot always have gauntlet?
Yeah, well, because that's what Free Enterprise finds what you exactly hate and gives that to you.
Yeah, did you end up? I think everybody found it. Yeah, you did, and you got through it probably the easiest of all of our runners. You got through that wyvern that was at the top of Lower Babel. By the time you found it, by the time
I found it, it was just like, oh hey, it's you.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. A lot of the other runners found it at a much lower level or with fewer party members, and were not quite so. Didn't have quite such an easy time getting through it as you did.
I completely forgot about the counter with Mega Nuke summons. I'm like, oh, well, that's hilarious because I set up a server because I forgot this was Wyvern. And it was like, oh.
We wondered if you had forgotten about it or if you were just like, whatever, because of your levels.
The other thing that you avoided that was a difficult thing for some people earlier was the Mylon Z spot had Rubicant. But if you had gotten through there, the Mount Ordeals did have the magnet. So yeah, it was like there was like a lot of here like jockeying for position early, and then once that darkness crystal was found by everybody, it was like, since that like the last time was available to everybody at that point, like who's gonna actually go to the giant when there's so many places to check on the moon, right?
I mean, I didn't get the giant until on my way back down from the moon.
Yeah.
You did a really nice job of clearing the moon the way that you did. You pretty much were committed to it, and you went up, you full cleared it, and even though it didn't have anything, you at least committed to doing it. We're kind of seeing on Night Dew's screen that Night Dew has gone back and forth several times, which even though we know it doesn't have anything, it still cost him even more time because he's gone back and forth between the moon and the planet. So at least once you committed, you were committed, and you got through it as quickly as you could under the circumstances. So you did a nice job of clearing it.
The other thing with the moon was I was very, very determined not to use cabins if I could help it.
Yeah, you kept Tella dead for a long time.
I felt like during the run I had Cannon Tella, so.
Yeah.
Somebody in chat said that you were just trying to, or I think that most of our runners on stream were just trying to keep Tella in his, canon dead state.
Yeah, he does like to nap, that's for sure. Well, did you have any other thoughts on this seed or this flag set tonight?
Hello, Valvalis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, down at the. Wow. Yeah. Well, you did finish in 4th place tonight, so GG's on your finish. Thank you for letting us watch your stream tonight. Much appreciated there. And are you going to be playing in the upcoming league?
Yes, actually. And
all right. Well,
probably
then,
when I get booted out, I'll be on Race Ring help. So.
All right. Well, good luck to you on that too.
You all have a good night.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you in the upcoming races and in the league starting next week. And GG on your finish tonight.
GG.
All right, that was Much Paranoia. Make sure to give him a follow as well. Now Nitsky is doing what I was afraid might happen there, and going back to get the trap chest in Eblin. I can't blame him at this point. You've got
right.
To check. Any place could be the one that sets off the chain that leads you there.
Yeah, we talked about this very early, that those runners who took the magma key to get to the underground may end up coming back through here to get these chests.
Yeah.
we know that there's nothing in here, but they don't. So yeah, they're gonna have to check these when they don't know where else to go. We also saw on Night Dew's screen that he went and took his adamant and legend sword and took them to Copol, the blacksmith in the underground. I was wondering if maybe he thought we were on V1 for a minute and that he needed to forge his crystal, but all he got was an Excalibur from that, so no crystal to be found from forging tonight.
Yeah, there might be some people who are in like autopilot mode with V1 because they're so used to it with the league practice. I will also mention we do have a 5th place finisher. Pizza 34 has finished in 5th place with a time of 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 07 seconds. So GG's to Pizza.
Oh, wonderful. GG to Pizza.
And I also don't blame Nitsky for... actually, did Nitsky find the Mist Dragon on the moon? I don't remember.
He may not have, since he is going and looks like he's checking the bosses here. So yeah, he may be doing a Mist Dragon check.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought by what I'm seeing here. I just don't remember if I saw him go down to that pale dim spot.
I mean, it doesn't look like he has any of the other items that were found on the moon, like the rat tail or the adamant or anything like that.
Sure.
So he may not have been to the moon, or at least been done much on the moon if he has been.
I think he did Bahamut Cave, but that might be it. If he hasn't done much on the moon, he might be avoiding that until the very end, so that might lead him to try the giant earlier.
Looks like he's gonna fight through this Leviathan. I wonder if he just missed what the second boss is, since if when you see what the character is in Eblin Cave, you can also see what the boss is, but if he missed that or forgot what it is, he may have to get through this to see what the second boss is.
Alternatively, at this far deep into upper battle, instead of walking back to the point where you exit out, he might think this just might be a faster way to get through there.
That's very possible if he doesn't want to, like if he doesn't have a save that's right outside or doesn't want to reset out because he maybe picked something up that he wants to keep.
Night Dew got the spoon. I haven't seen anybody rescue Edward yet. Maybe there's hope for Night Dew.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to see anybody rescued.
With all the levels that everyone has gotten doing everything else so far, I would be a little surprised at this point if they do decide to keep an Edward, since, doing all the trapped chests between Sylph Cave and the Lunar Subterrane, and then all the moon bosses and summon bosses, they've gotten a lot of levels, so getting Edward, I mean, it wouldn't take very long, but that's, some people might think it would be, but others, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't.
Yeah, and Night Dew making use of the Leviathan help for lock carry fights here. Whereas this guy also using Leviathan to take out Octoman. Seems like it should be more effective against the carries than against an octopus, but whatever works, works.
Yeah, obviously that was a much quicker Octomom fight at this stage and level than we saw a couple of hours ago.
And now Nitsky is going to be rewarded with that red airship. We'll see if he decides to go to the giant next.
Looks like landing outside Dwarf Castle. Again, there's just so many checks, and I haven't been following exactly where everyone has been. So this is a relatively quick check at this point. So I'm not surprised that maybe they're going to check here before going to somewhere out of the way, like the last arm check.
Okay, and at this point, we're about 2.5 hours into this broadcast. What we're going to do is take you all over to Nitsky's stream so that you can watch the rest of this. I want to thank everybody for watching. Once again, give follows to all of the runners we had tonight: Much Paranoia, Night 214, Zilch 6, Nitsky 1. And everybody who worked on the restream. We have Tarasu on the restream, Demarin 2 doing the tracking, Natara, who is basically the manager of the Monday Night Fights. Monday Night Fights. And of course, my co-commentator, Maggie the Cat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rex, for commentating with me, and thanks to all of everyone on the Restream team for giving us these wonderful races, and to our racers. This was not an easy flag set like we talked about earlier, and props to all of our racers who are still running. Go over and follow Night Dew. It looks like he is hopefully going to be following up on this chain that he's about to find here, getting the pan in just a moment. We're going to take you over to Nitsky in just a moment, so please continue to watch them, follow the rest of their race through, and thank you all so much for joining us this evening and for being part of our wonderful community.
Take care.